Hi everyone, my name is Samantha Rumbidzai Vazhure. I'm an author and publisher at Carnelian Heart Publishing. And today I'm joined by Joseph Matose, author and poet, who has just launched his debut collection of poems called Park Poesy. Welcome, Joseph.
Thank you, Samantha.
Great. So today we'll be talking about Joseph's writing journey and his creative process and everything related to Grave Park Poesy. So let's get straight into it. Joseph, can you tell us a little bit about yourself? Who is Joseph Matose?
Thank you, Samantha. Joseph Matose is a 54-year-old young boy born in Shirezi in 1968 from a Shangan family. I'm fifth in the family of 9. Went to school in Ipo Valley States when I was 10 after herding some cattle. I did my grade 1 in 1978, started my secondary education at grade 0 secondary school in 1984, that is Form 1, then completed Form 4 in 1987. I then went to Madpat High School, closer to the border with South Africa. Then after that, I went to South Africa. I'm married, I have 5 children, I stay in Kadoma. That's the town of my choice, where I'm also a farmer, a manager at a private security company, and an author.
Fantastic. Thank you for that. So your debut collection of poems, Grave Park Poesy, has just released. Congratulations. Could you talk me through the process of putting together this title, detailing how long it took you to write the book, and any challenges you experienced during the process of writing it?
Thank you. Grave Park Poesy is a book which is closer to my heart. A book written when I was around about 51, 52. It's actually a book I feel I was inspired to write when I was walking past a graveyard closer to Mbari in Harare. And after seeing the writings on the headstones, it just hit me in my mind that I should write something that is to do with the love of those who are still living for their dead relatives. And it didn't take me a lot of time to compile Grave Park Poesy, because most of the poems are just related. I was speaking on behalf of those who departed, how they are feeling, where they are interred, what hopes they have as they are being interred, what hopes they had when they were still alive. And you realize that some of them, just reading on the headstones, you can see one just passed on when they were still young. And I had an inspiration that this person had dreams which were cut short. So I had to speak that person's dream on his behalf. And you can see that some of the words on the headstones, you could see it's not, it's flattery. Like someone says, beloved John, so and so. And yet, if you trace, that person could have been a criminal.
Oh, yes.
So I was also pointing that out, that those who are departed, those who are arrested, those who are buried, they also have mixed characters like the living.
Like us, yeah.
So I simply wanted to speak on their behalf. And I also wanted to redirect those who are still living to actually tell the entire truth about the departed. Because we know naturally that if a person is dead, people want to believe that he was good. And some of the words that we say about a person who has departed It's just praise words.
Mm.
And like in Shona, they say
Wafawanaka. Yeah.
So I wanted to correct that.
Mm.
I wanted us, including myself,
Mm-hmm.
to be as genuine as possible.
Yeah.
If a person was a criminal,
Then that.
that should be clear enough that he was a bad person. If a person was a good person, so to speak, it should be clear on the headstone that he was a good person, so that we can also emulate. But because of the idiom that wafawanaka, we end up emulating people who are not even worthy our admiration. So it didn't take me a lot of time to make that compilation, maybe because of age. Because when you hit 50, you begin to think in many ways. Death is not something that is scary.
No.
When you are a grown-up person. I remember when I was a boy, deep down in Shirezi, if you are walking in the bush and you end up stepping on an old grave, you would run away. But at this age, you feel those who are departed are people who are closer to you.
Absolutely.
Physically and mentally.
And mentally. And spiritually,
And
I suppose.
spiritually,
Yeah.
yes. So it took me a very few months to put it together. And you realize that I have other manuscripts, but I prioritized this one because it's a collection which is closer to my heart. But having said that, there are challenges when you are writing a book. You are making a compilation. One of it is time. You never have enough time to do what you want. Writing is a passion to me, but which I think I'm not giving it enough attention because of other commitments.
Absolutely.
You know, I'm fully gainfully employed. You have other assignments to do. You are a family person. You have other duties to do.
You're also running a farm.
Yeah, so you end up doing this writing maybe late at night until early in the morning. So those are some of the challenges, but interesting challenges. I like challenges. I'm naturally a writer. I have a passion. So I never feel it like it's a challenge. No. It's an interesting challenge.
Yeah, it's a passion.
Yes.
It's a passion and a challenge.
So it didn't take me much time to make that compilation, despite the challenges I've already mentioned.
Oh, that's great. Thank you. I mean, inside your book, towards the end, there's a details section about the author, and I've been itching to ask you questions from that part of the book. So I know that you are massively inspired by the late Dambudzo Marechera, and at some point in your life, you became friends with his brother, the late Namo Marechera. And so could you please talk me through that friendship and what it means to you and how it's inspired you as a creative?
Thank you. Marechera will remain my inspiration. Dambudzo. When I was a juvenile, that's when I came to know about Dambudzo through his writings. I had an opportunity of meeting some university students who were teaching where I was a student. They had books written by Marechera and other books, of course. So they introduced me to Dambudzo Marechera. I liked his way of writing. I was already a passionate writer by then. And it was quite easy for me to understand what Marechera was writing about. So I never met him in person, but I learned quite a lot about his life, his education, and his works, and the like. So coincidentally, in 1995, I went to Rusape. I just visited some relatives. By then, I was working in South Africa. I just come back home and decided to visit because I wanted to take a driver's license in Rusape.
Right.
So just by coincidence, I was at Mandea Township. It's closer to Rusape Dam. And you can see Rusape town from there.
Right.
It's a township closer to town. So I was there just whiling up time, and I heard people talking about marriage here.
Mm-hmm.
I thought maybe it's just a common sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
And they were just pointing at him. Others were actually mocking. And because he was drunk,
Right.
Dambuzo's young brother Namu.
Mm-hmm.
I was so touched because to me the Marechera name, with the admiration I had and which I still have now for Dambuzo, it sort of like compelled me to approach this drunken young man and talk to him. He clearly introduced himself to me, saying he is young brother Dambuzo Marechera. I could see even how he appeared, you know, his
the resemblance.
yeah, the resemblance and the like, even the height, the facial appearance, you know, his body language when talking.
Mm-hmm.
He was just like Dambuzo.
Mm.
So he was drunk, of course. I gave him time. Next day, I came early in the morning because I wanted to see. I had a mission now because I wanted to sort of talk to him about Dambuzo, because I never met Dambuzo, and he is someone I would have died in order to meet.
Yeah.
So I
get
said
that.
here was the opportunity for me to talk to his young brother.
Yeah.
So I approached him early. It was early in the morning when I thought at this time he's still sober,
Yes.
because the Marecheras, being the Marecheras, they are overindulgent people
Right.
like Dambuzo.
Yeah.
So he was very accommodative when I approached him. He introduced himself, and he was renting a room behind one of the shops.
Right.
And he took me inside his room. By that time, he was staying with his little daughter.
Right.
I never asked what happened to his daughter's mother, but it was clear to me that the Marecheras, they will never maintain a marriage, obviously. But he was so loving of his daughter.
Oh, that's
and
nice.
They even called Mother Tortoise.
Okay.
He nicknamed Mother Tortoise.
Mother tortoise.
Yeah.
Okay. Did you say why?
Being a literary person, I just thought this is an affectionate name.
Absolutely.
He loved
It
his
sounds
daughter.
poetic as well.
Yeah, he loved his daughter.
Yeah.
So I still feel I made a mistake. I was supposed to ask him, where is Mother Tortoise's mother? I feel it now in hindsight. I should have inquired. But you know, when you are inside the situation, you are sort of, you know, you sort of think in hindsight.
Absolutely.
You cannot do all the things as they happen.
Yeah.
So he took me to his room. What struck me instantly was a bookshelf. It was a ramshackle, a dilapidated room, but there was a wooden bookshelf, very big, full of books, well polished. And I looked at Namu. He was so scruffy. And it showed to me clearly he inherited those books from Dambuzo. Well, he inherited them from Dambuzo, but here is a man who is treasuring those books. And I could feel that to him those books were sacrosanct, very important. And maybe that's where he saw his brother.
Yes.
Talking to him further, he told me a little bit of himself, that he was a liberation war hero. He went to Mozambique during the war. At one point, he was sent to Malta
Right.
to study warfare. And while he still was in Malta, he was withdrawn from that assignment
Right.
because they suspected he could have been selling information And I said, why did they suspect that you are selling information? He said, when he was in Malta, he was regularly communicating with Dambudzo when he was in UK.
Right.
So they mistook that communication. You know, Britain, having been a colonizer, and they were fighting the British, they thought maybe he was releasing information to do with the war.
Right.
So he told me, all said by Dambudzo, by Namo, that when he was in Mozambique, after having been withdrawn from Malta, he was arrested.
Right.
And independence came. The war ended when he was incarcerated in a tank. That's what he told me. And I would want to believe maybe that's how they held their prisoners, being in the bush. And I'd want to believe maybe the tanker didn't have any gaseous fumes to suffocate someone. Because he was actually telling me that he was fed through that opening on top of the tank.
Wow.
So I was actually fascinated with these stories.
Yeah.
Having been a person who admired his brother Dambudzo, a person who inspired me to write more and more. And I even thought to myself, here is a person I should hang around with, despite the community holding him with low esteem, because he was being regarded as a street akin or someone like of that nature. So I had an opportunity to read a lot of books, because I would hang around with him almost every day. He was, most of the time, he didn't have some food. And I would buy him something just to have an opportunity to visit him and sit down and read. He gave me quite a lot of books. Some of them signed by Dambudzo. And I learned one thing. To be a writer, you must be a reader. Dambudzo was a serious reader. This I can tell you. And I emulated that even up to now. When I'm not writing, I'm reading. So Namo afforded me the opportunity to read classics, Greek classics, Roman classics, English authors of the Elizabethan era, of the Romantic poets. I had a lot of opportunity to read. In particular, he was a reader himself.
Right.
Maybe he also emulated his brother. Because I used to communicate with him in English, and he would recite you a poem. He loved Coleridge quite a lot,
Right.
especially for his poem, The Ancient Mariner, Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner.
Yes.
Yeah, he would recite it. That's a long poem by
Right.
Coleridge. He would recite it by heart.
Wow.
So to me, it shows that he was also a literary person, despite his shortcomings. Despite the fact that he was a soldier, there was that literature in his mind.
Yes.
So I even tried to talk to him to say, let's collaborate, because I ended up showing him some of my poems.
Yes.
He liked them. By that time, I took him like he's someone who is more senior than me, even by age. He was older than me, of course. And because of his association with his brother, Namo Dambudzo, I considered him as a person who was more sophisticated than me. So I always asked him on the direction, or how do we write books? What can we do? What can you teach me? He said, we can do a collab. And he said, I said, what are we going to entitle it? He said, when he was incarcerated in a tent in Mozambique, when you have been deprived of freedom, every event becomes very, very important. So he said he wanted to entitle the collection Diary of Holidays.
Diary of
Holidays.
Diary of Holidays.
Yes.
Okay.
I wanted to find out why. He said, when you are incarcerated, even a weekend, you can feel it You can feel the sound outside, happy people, because it's a weekend. If it is Christmas, you can hear the sound of people enjoying themselves. So these are the events I was counting when I was in the darkness of a tent. It inspired me quite a lot. But unfortunately, after that chance association, I went back to South Africa. That's when I heard that he passed on. I had actually bestowed into his custody quite a lot of poems, and that they just disappeared.
Oh dear. Oh, that's
So
very
it was
sad.
very important for me meeting Namu because of my admiration for his brother, Namu. Yes, Samantha.
Yeah. Wow, that's a beautiful story. Sad but beautiful. Yeah. No, thank you for that, Joseph. So I think moving on, if you wouldn't mind reading us maybe a poem or two from your book.
No, thank you. Samantha, I will read two.
Okay.
They are short poems, of course, but they are very closer to my heart. The first one I'm going to read, it's entitled Books.
Okay. I love that poem.
I've never known anything that can free a person besides books, reading books.
Yeah.
So allow me to read.
Go ahead.
I'm not a good reader, I'm a writer.
I think we all are.
So-
I can relate to that.
Let me also hear my voice for the first time because I don't listen to myself when I'm talking. So this poem is entitled Books. Let us the world with books build, and minds with letters also gild. For those who fill heads with letters, snap open their progeny fetters. I lived and also died still a learner. All was mine, I was a full earner. Those who to toil of study disdain have in death some endless pain. What have they the world to show, nor proof they've all there is to know? To die in ignorance's domain gives thee less energy to rise again.
Wonderful. Thank you.
I am giving praise to the culture of reading. And I've never known any way of life except being with books.
And we need that, I think. We
And,
need that in this day and age.
Whoever is closer to me, wherever I am, even when traveling in public transport, I always whisper, let's read books.
Let's read books.
Even to the children. To date, I've written a collection of children's poems and a collection of short stories for children. I can never be a complete writer without remembering that children must also read.
Absolutely. Yeah. Because it's a culture that needs to
Yes.
start from the
Yes.
grassroots. We
Yes.
need to start them early.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then the second poem I'm going to read is it's also closer to my heart. I've been into writing and yet unpublished for quite some time. I started writing in 1984 up to now. And I would want to credit publication of this book to you because you found me. At one point I thought I was going to just pass on without having been read. The way how I write, the passion with which I mobilize my creative thinking. I'm so meticulous. When I start writing, I can do it throughout the night. And I would ask myself most of the time, when is this going to end? I'm just writing, I'm not getting published. because of that pain, I didn't want to call me a writer in this pain, in this point.
Right.
I wanted to call myself a writer.
Right. Right.
I'm a person who is twisting in pain, writhing in pain. So I wanted to call myself a writer. I'm a writer working hard, a trophy of glass to end, yet each time mine is a shard, and I continue to end. Like a boxer, I throw a punch to knock down my foe. My plans always crunch, or I step on my own toe. I'm a writer that I know, a writer of hidden fame. I will not to pain Koto till the day you read my name.
Wonderful. Thank you very much. Thank you. So, I probably know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. Do you ever experience the writer's block? And if you do, how do you deal with it?
Samantha, I call myself a profuse writer. When I start writing, in fact, the way nature, I call myself a nature poet. Wherever I look, I get inspiration to write. Even when I close my eyes,
There's something
that I'm thinking, I'm seeing something in darkness.
Yes.
So I always experience the urge to write and write and write. I even ask myself, when is this going to end?
Yeah. You
So
almost
I
feel
never-
unwell when you're not writing.
Yes, I
Yeah.
never feel any moment where I say, now I'm failing to conceive something.
Yeah. It's like an obsession.
Yeah, it's an
It has to
obsession, it's
come
a
out.
passion. It's something, to me, it comes out naturally because I nurtured it for a long time when I was still a boy. So, no, I never feel any writer's block. I actually suffer the profusion of creating something new all the time
Yes.
and blotting it on paper.
Yeah. And because I can relate to what you're saying, and I actually wonder whether it's because they're all the other things that you kind of need to attend to in life. You know, the work, the farming, the kids, the family. Because I feel that way as well about writing. I never experienced the writer's block, but what I feel like I don't have enough time to write.
Exactly.
Because there's so much happening around me that I need to attend to.
Exactly, the commitments of life. You are an adult, you are employed elsewhere, which is a feeling. It brings me to the feeling that in order for me to be satisfied with, this is a mission, it's like a conviction.
Yeah.
Writing to me now is a belief on its own.
Yes.
That all the time I must be creating something for other people, something that is not visible, and make it visible.
Yeah.
It's almost like a belief, a conviction. It's something that is now running in my blood. And I feel at my age now, I should give this enough attention. This edge to write should be given enough attention.
Yes.
And I just feel like I should abandon all the other commitments except marriage.
I can completely relate to what you're saying.
Just giving up employment, hire people to do the farming and just sit down and write.
And write. Until you empty yourself.
Until I'm empty, and that's when I will feel
satisfied. Oh,
right now I'm not complete.
Yeah.
Even as I'm seated here, I'm going to write 3 poems for you after this.
That's wonderful. Fantastic. Thank you. So, what are your thoughts on the reading culture in Africa, and what do you think can be done to improve it?
Okay, I will begin with the reading culture in Zimbabwe. It started very well when it started with Shona writers. Just 3 weeks ago, by coincidence, I met Aaron Chunduramo.
All right.
And we shared some contacts. We communicate all the time. Because he inspired us as students in the 80s and in the 90s. With Shona novel, the reading culture was okay. Because we had Shona writers, even those who were educated outside the country. With degrees in English and stuff, they would come back home and start writing Shona novels.
Right.
That was fine. And I even admire Kahari with his book, Rise of the Shona Novel. I enjoy reading it. He's actually collecting all the information about Shona writers, starting from, the 70s. So the reading culture on the Shona novel, to me, it was taken care of.
Right.
For some time. But the English novel, I feel, in Zimbabwe, it was not given enough attention. You would get chance writers like Dambuzi. Instead of having admirers, you would have people scorning him maybe for his character to the extent that they disdain the artistry in what he is creating. My thinking is that I should separate a person's behavior from what he is creating.
Absolutely.
You can be a good teacher without being a good, without good behavior yourself. Something like, don't do what I do, but do what I say. It's quite practical. Because you don't give a dog a bad name and hang it. Or just like what the English say, throwing away the baby with the bathwater. You must separate the two. You must remain with a clean baby and throw away the dirty water. So the few writers of English that we had in the country, most of them were an outfit of people who were scorned as people who are not normal, like Dambuzi. Or sorts of diagnostic would be given that is schizophrenic, is temperamental, is this and that. And to the extent that they didn't admire his work. And different from that, so the few English writers we have got, with Shona, like what I'm saying, Shona has been taken care of. And English, yes, it's half-half. That's why you see I'm inspired to write children's work, because it should start with children.
Yes.
Reading culture should start with children. Especially in schools. I'm looking forward to a time where schools should have a syllabus for poetry at primary school.
That would be wonderful.
At primary school.
That would be wonderful.
So something like that. So what has contributed to the poor reading culture in Africa is because we are forced to read academic books, and we are not being forced to read creative books.
And also
Why?
just to read for
And being
pleasure.
a creative writer in Africa doesn't pay. That has contributed to a poor reading culture. Unlike in Western countries, you find that even at school, they will be surprised that Matose is a poet, and they would want to know where I learned that poetry. They expect to see a degree, because in their countries, you are groomed from being a child up to an adult, then you become a writer.
Right.
It starts with the reading culture.
Yes.
So being a writer in Africa and Zimbabwe is not quite lucrative, and it has contributed to the poor reading culture besides academic books. And academic books, being academic, they are being forced on someone, not actually bringing out the creativity in a person. He will just, he or she will just take it as a subject that is being force-fed on him. And it's just reading to pass.
And not for pleasure.
Not
It's never
reading
really
to internalize it, no.
Yeah. Or even because you can read novels for
Yes.
literature, for example.
Yes, yes.
But
Just
you
reading
never,
to pass.
so you're reading to pass and you're not
Yes.
actually enjoying the
Yes,
books.
exactly.
So, yeah.
So we need such a situation, a situation where the reading culture must be inculcated to our children from a young age.
Yeah.
And they should know that writing books is actually a profession like any other job, which is a missing link in our country, and more so in Africa. And a few successful writers like Ngugi, Achebe, they were lucky that their books were actually marketed outside the country, most of them. Were they marketed in Africa or in Nigeria or Kenya, they would be just ordinary people and nobody will emulate being a writer. That's my feeling, Samantha.
Okay.
I'm looking at a situation where from primary school there should be a syllabus creative writing.
Yes. I completely agree with you there.
After college, after university, it should be a professional job to be a writer.
I completely agree. And I think also maybe parents have a part to play, maybe.
Yes.
You know, encouraging children to read for pleasure, buying them books. So, you know, instead of, I don't know.
Exactly. You will find that the way I grew up, that's why I write some of I grew up in the midst of folklore.
Yeah.
And I used to wonder, my grandmother is telling me all these stories. But they are written nowhere. It inspired me up to now. You find that some of my writings, my short stories and stuff, they relate quite a lot to folklore. Just imagine if folklore stories were stories properly written and educated children from a younger age. The creativity that I have now derived from folklore. But now, how many of us have grannies who can tell them folklore? We need books. Now we need books.
Absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, and it's interesting you say that because you know, the generation of storytellers like our grandmothers,
it's now
gone.
Yes.
And it's our generation that might remember some of these stories.
Yes.
So once we are gone, those
Everything-
stories are gone.
They cease to exist.
Absolutely.
They must be immortalized.
Yes.
You know, somewhere, somehow, they must remain. And I'm trying to do that.
Yeah.
And I have other international journals where I'm actually posting some folklore poetry.
Right.
And they are being received. Yeah, quite a lot they are being received.
Yes.
So I think I'm trying to immortalize what I learned from my grandmother before I also cease to exist. And everything will just die natural death.
Yeah.
So that folklore era should now translate to the reading culture. We must immortalize all that knowledge in folklore in books and taught to children at a younger age.
I completely agree. Okay. So what are you currently reading yourself at the moment? Are you reading any books or are you watching anything interesting?
Right. I learned it from Namo, Marechera, and Bambus. I have a library in the house. I also learned it from my cousin brother who was staying with me at Malipati High School. He actually housed me in as you can establish from my short biography in the book, Park Poesy. He had a library. He actually shipped a lot of books from the United States.
Right.
So that's why he kept me for the whole year. And I took it from him that I should always have a library wherever I am. Even when I'm moving, like I've come here from Kadoma and spending a night here, I should move around with 2-3 books. And poetry is quite easy to read because it's unlike a novel where you should pick up the thread all the time. A poetry book, you can just read 2 poems and you close it.
That's
you are
it.
done for the day.
Yeah.
So I always read, Samantha. I can not specifically say I'm reading this particular book because right now I just rifle through.
Yes.
Just having something to read every day is quite important.
Absolutely, and I agree. Yeah, and I agree with you on the poetry part because I'm so busy, and I find that when I'm busy, it's easier to read poetry.
Yeah, exactly.
Because it's like a short story that you can read in a few minutes.
In a few minutes, and you attend to something else.
Something else. Yeah. Okay.
So I always read all the time. I read, and I always write all the time. I write. I've never known any time where I'm away from books.
Oh, that's wonderful. It's very inspiring.
Even when
as
I'm
well.
moving around on foot, I'm just whiling up time, refreshing. I have my notebook in the pocket and a pen. Of course, how I get inspired at times, it's an influx. If you don't attend to it quickly, it flies away.
Yeah.
So I always have a pen and paper all the time because it hits. It hits because I'm inspired by nature.
Yeah.
That's
so
why I call myself a nature poet.
Yeah.
So I must have a pen and paper all the time. If something inspires me, I must capture it.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
So I know you've spoken a lot about Ndambudzo Marechera and how he inspires you. Other than Ndambudzo, do you have favorite authors, or are there other writers that inspire you?
Write quite a lot, Samantha. Not because I've read a lot. Outside academic spheres, leisure reading, I've read quite a lot. This I must say. And I still continue reading Western writers, African writers, but I enjoy more African writers. I relate to them. You can see clearer the picture. When he's talking about a mother, you can see your own mother.
Yes.
When he's talking about a hill, you can clearly see that it's like the hill which is closer to my home. So I admire African writers like Ngugi. First time to read Ngugi was on his interesting book, Devil on the Cross.
Right.
I read it in 1987. It actually inspired me. A well-written book. Ngugi, I think, is quite a good writer. And now on the internet, I just read bits and pieces. Now it's quite easy. Here and there, I just Google and read something from Google.
Yeah.
Yes, I grew up admiring Charles Nimbosh. Coming of the Dry Season and the like. That was in the late 80s. And since Dangarem, she actually inspired me.
Yes, I think a lot of us are inspired by Tsitsi Dangarem.
She's actually one of, I didn't mention it in Park Poesy, but in other manuscripts, I mentioned her quite a lot. Yeah, she inspired me. Let's see, yes, of course, Ndambudzo. And African writers, Zimbabwean writers, and Shona writers as well. Like Aaron Shiunduramo. He inspired us quite a lot. He inspired us quite a lot. I even think of when I was talking to him just 3 weeks ago, because I wish some of the work that I do should be translated into Shona. I cannot do it because I'm Shangaan. I will do the Shangaan versions, but I should enlist the support of Chiunduramoyo on the Shona versions, because my wish is to capture as much readership as possible. If I'm not a, I write in English because of the opportunity to write in English, but I also think and conceive some of the themes in Shangaan, which is my mother tongue.
Absolutely. I think we all do that.
So
well, most of us do.
I cannot leave my people out, because I even consider myself a writer for the people of Gaza. There's Gaza, Komanani, where I grew up, in Chirezi. There's Gaza in Mozambique. There's Gazankulu in South Africa. these are communities which were just divided by borders, natural borders, artificial borders, I mean to say. So I have blood relatives across Mozambique and across South Africa. So these are the people of Gaza. I should translate all my work into Shangaan so that they can also get to read what I've written. That's my wish. That's my wish.
Yeah.
So yes, I was inspired by quite a hell lot of brilliant writers. Yeah, women, men, and of course, women. I read quite a lot of brilliant writers. Doris Lessing inspired me quite a lot with a book, The Grasses Sing. You know, some of these books were written during a time where South Africa and Zimbabwe was under colonialism. It was like resistance books. You know, like Alan Patton, Cry the Beloved Country and stuff. I used to read again and again some of those books. At one point, I ended up being a person with anarchy because I had lots of influence from resistance literature. Then there is Agatha Christie. Yeah, I read quite a lot of her books. She's a good investigative writer. I enjoyed that. Coincidentally, I ended up being a security practitioner, and the investigation part of it became handy.
Oh, nice.
Because of Agatha Christie. Yeah.
Wow. How about that?
She was a brilliant writer, Agatha Christie. So I had lots of books. Yeah, Shakespeare, he inspired me with one of his lines. I'm a meticulous writer. When I write something, I want to do it perfectly.
Perfectly, yes.
And
it shows.
Yeah, he had a line. That's why you see, I want to write a rhyme most of the time. It's not easy.
No.
I don't just want to just write as if I'm talking. I want to rearrange things. I want to correctly place a word. Things like that. So I was inspired by Shakespeare when he said, "The petty done is undone fast." If you do something halfway, you have not done anything. So I'm quite meticulous. When I do something, I do it perfectly well. I take time. Even on the short stories, you will find that if you rearrange them, they are like a poem written in prose. Because I endeavor to correctly place every word. And that is what Virgil, when he wrote the Aeneid, this Roman writer, Virgilius Mark, when he wrote, it's a version of Homer's Odyssey and the Iliad. It is said that he would spend a day trying to perfect just one line.
Wow.
One line for the whole book. That inspired me.
Yes.
At times, just rushing things doesn't do any good.
No, it doesn't.
You have got to take time because you are trying. Writing. It's a movement on its own.
Yeah.
You must rightly inspire people, not with half-baked stuff.
No.
So I'm always particular about what I'm doing. That's why you find that even in the professional sphere, the report that my director would read, he will never find a comma placed wrongly. And he will never find anything that is amiss.
It's always perfectly done.
Perfectly. I repeat, even if I'm writing a poem, I repeat it again and again.
You have to rework it until
Yes.
there's nothing left to rework.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. At times, that's why I call myself a writer. I torture myself to produce something. I torture myself for the benefit of someone who is going to read. Because when we start writing, yourself, you are a writer, and myself, at times we are not doing it for any gain.
No.
It's something that is kicking inside you and yearning to
come out.
to come out.
Yeah.
So you must make sure that what it dishes out is the right stuff for the right people. So I am quite meticulous about what I'm doing. And I didn't achieve that out of conventional education. I would want to believe, like John Major once said when he was asked, what's your level of education? He said, I was educated in the school of life. I think you get a lot of education from there. That's why I told you I learned a lot from my maternal grandmother. She was a Mozambican. Didn't even know how to write a name. Never saw any school whatsoever. But what she taught me, I think it would pass for any academic education.
She was full of wisdom.
Yeah, full of wisdom. So even up to now, I still believe in sagacity, the philosophy that it is natural wisdom. There's philosophy that you learn, then there's natural philosophy called sagacity. I draw a lot of inspiration from that.
Yeah, wonderful. That's beautiful. Thank you. So outside of writing, do you have other talents or other interests?
Yeah, quite a lot. Quite a lot. A lot of talents, actually. Let's begin with talents. Although I did not nurture that talent quite a lot, I am a boxer.
Okay.
And I still enjoy watching boxing. And I've written a lot about Muhammad Ali. Don't hit a man on ropes. Don't hit him when he's down. Cut him when he flops. Sting him till he's brown. I've written quite a lot about Mike Tyson. I enjoy those two. Yeah, I admire Mike for his temperament. I admire Ali. He's a poet. He's a sportsman. They didn't have that temper. He was purely a sportsman. So I like boxing quite a lot. And when I was a juvenile, because of my temperament, I thought I was going to tame myself by fighting it out where you are being given rules instead of street fighting. You know.
So you fought in school?
Quite a lot in school. I was once fired for headbutting a teacher at Chibwedziwa. That was in 1987.
Right.
So I wrote my O-level examination while just an external student. And that's when my other brother, who was a headmaster, principal at Malipati, he took me. He had come from United States. So he said, oh no, you are failing to harness the intelligence in this young man. Bring him here. So that's when I went there. I stayed with him the whole year. He threw all the books on top of me, so I had a year-long opportunity to read books. It actually gave me a lot of perspective in writing.
Wonderful.
Yeah. So boxing, yes, I like it. I even practiced it sometime in the streets, in the ring, but for a short while in South Africa. In South Africa. By that time, I did not even know that in Zimbabwe you can find a club where you do boxing.
Right.
You know, we were behind in many things. Yeah, quite behind. At times, some of the talents just fizzle out without being discovered because we don't have the resources and the initiative to do that. Now I see we have even women doing boxing. It's quite impressive.
Absolutely.
Quite impressive. But as a man, during that time, as a young man, you won't even find a club to do boxing in Zimbabwe. So some of the talents, I would have been maybe a world boxing champion. You never know.
Who knows? Who knows? Well, it's never too late to get into these things. You should just do it for fun. You should probably join a boxing club and do it for fun.
No, really?
Yeah.
I actually have one of my sons who is physically fit. So I'm still finding a way to sort of
nurture the talent.
You tell him, can you, because that is if he doesn't feel like I'm just throwing him into the ring to bleed. I will find a way of telling him, you are physically fit, you can do well as a boxer. You know.
Yeah.
Anything goes if you do it well. You know.
Yeah.
And then yes, some other interests I have quite a lot. I'm a fan of fine art.
All right. Oh, so am I.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually inspired one of my sons. He's 21 years old now. He's an international watercolor artist.
Oh, fantastic.
Yeah, he has got his studio in Chirezi and he's shipping his stuff outside.
That's wonderful.
So he's a watercolor artist, a good one, brilliant one. And the other day when I came to Ellie's Garden, the following day he was having a show at Borodo.
Okay.
So he does that most of the time. And he's due to have another show in Zambia and in Durban.
Oh, that's wonderful.
You know, so I enjoy fine art. I enjoy it. Then I also have an interest in gardening. Of course, nowadays I feel I'm having hay fever or something. I don't know what these flowers are doing to me, but I enjoy gardening. Yeah, I know names of all these flowers.
Yeah, I'm into plants as well, as you know.
That's why I've written another poem where I was talking about strobilanthus and stuff, and zinnia, Sheena's gold and stuff.
Yes.
It was dedication to my love of plants.
For plants. Yeah.
So that's one of my interests. When I'm tired, when I want to sort of relieve myself from pressure of work, pressure of writing, I just walk around in the garden,
and talk to your plants.
Talk to my plants.
Yeah.
You know, these are living things.
Yes, absolutely.
They are living things, and they properly shape your thinking. Like you have planted a small seed. After 2 weeks, it has grown up. You are watching it.
Yes.
You know, you can feel this is my product.
Absolutely.
It gives you the reason to live, because you're actually nurturing something else that has got life.
Absolutely, absolutely, and you get lots of energy from plants
exactly.
as well. They can change your mood.
Exactly, that's true.
Yeah, absolutely beautiful.
That's true.
Beautiful.
So I collect lots of flowers. As we are looking that side, you see that's begonia can. There, on the side of the tree, that's begonia rex. So I collect even the begonias.
Wow.
So,
I collect cacti and succulents mostly. Yes,
I have them. I see on your Facebook and some other pictures. Yeah, succulents, they are good.
Yeah.
Quite good. Quite good. Yeah. I am just surprised though. Do they do well in cold climate?
That's the challenge. It's actually a massive challenge because I'm always trying to mimic their natural habitat.
Oh, I see.
So I have to go. So, for example, the
create
soil,
like a sort of artificial desert or something.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I pot them, but I have to make sure that the soil I use is gritty. So I have to buy the grit. I have to buy sand and things like that. So I have to recreate the natural habitat, and I have to make sure that they're warm, they're getting the light.
That's quite interesting. I'm not alone in this.
Yeah, and interestingly, I don't know whether it happens here, but certainly in the UK, during the winter they go into hibernation.
Oh, I see.
They hibernate. So from around this time, so around October, November, some of them bloom, but then when they go into hibernation, they go to sleep.
Oh, I see.
So completely.
Like
so
they are not living.
Like they're not living. So from around October or November to around April, when the spring comes, they're completely asleep. And so I can actually afford to just ignore them completely. You don't water them, because if you water them while they're sleeping, they'll rot. Because they are not even absorbing the water.
I see.
So you stop watering them, you stop feeding them. They don't need light because they're sleeping. So you can even lock them up in a dark garage during that period, and they'll be okay.
Or they don't die.
They don't die because they're sleeping.
Mm.
So that's, it's just an interesting little
Oh yeah, quite
useless
interesting.
fact.
Oh, I enjoy plants.
Yeah.
The dragon Dracena there.
I love the Dracenas.
Cycad, Shefrela there.
Yeah.
There's indoor Shefrela out there.
Yeah.
Shina's gold, that hedge.
Yeah.
I like plants.
Yeah.
And that one, that's chocolate chips. That one, which is like
wishbone.
chocolate, yeah.
Okay.
That one, that shrub.
Ah, okay. That one further. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's chocolate chips.
Yeah. And then there's the wishbone. Yeah, I quite like the wishbone.
Oh
succulents.
yes.
Yeah. Next to the starfish blossoms.
And that one, the crane, they call them the crane flower.
Yeah.
That one, yeah, of course, the dirty palms.
Yeah.
The dirty palms.
Yeah. No, it's wonderful.
Yeah, it's quite, it's something, I think it's something to do with someone who is creative. You admire nature. And I call myself a nature poet, I should repeat. I'm inspired by small natural things.
Absolutely. So am I. So
they inspire me a lot.
Yeah. Oh, that's
So
great.
those are some of my interests, Samantha, apart from writing.
Yeah.
And I also wish I should, I have an undying wish that naturally I'm a teacher. Maybe it will pacify me if I sort of what I'm doing now, if I would find a way of teaching others creative writing, as it were.
Yes.
I'm having that edge inside me which says, do it, do it.
Yeah. I think a lot
Tell
of people
them.
would benefit from that actually. Because I think at the moment there are quite a lot of budding writers in Zimbabwe.
If I had resources,
Yeah.
I would actually start a creative writing school.
Yeah. I think that would be amazing.
And
That would be
that would
amazing.
combine even fine art.
Mm-hmm.
It would combine sport.
Mm-hmm.
It would combine creative writing. It should be all inclusive of everything that is called art. Even fighting is an art.
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah.
So you would actually harness a lot of talent which is dormant as of now.
No, I like that
But
idea.
resources, they are scarce.
Yeah. Okay. No, it's been really great chatting with you, Joseph. And I think before we wrap up, do you have a final message for your readership or for anyone who's watching this interview?
Yeah, thank you, Samantha. This is a small book. This is just a preamble. In Shona, just it's a starter. If it is a 3-course meal, this is a starter.
This is the starter. Yeah.
So they must expect quite a lot, like what we were talking, Samantha, that I'm dipping it on you, that you must actually have a lot of stuff which is frozen. You must give it life. I have a lot of manuscripts which must be go through them and give my readership lots of stuff.
Yeah. So there's more of your work coming.
More coming.
Yeah.
Quite interesting. Bigger books. This is just a start.
Yes.
But they should understand the way I was inspired. I write poetry, which sometimes is rhyme. I feel I have no exchange for writing rhyme poetry. I cannot exchange it for anything because I feel it drives out of my yearning that I'm a meticulous person. If I write something with loose ends, I just feel I haven't done.
You haven't done it justice.
Exactly. So, and more so, I enjoy couplet. It's quite challenging to create 2 lines that rhyme in juxtaposition. It's not easy. The reason why I do that, I want to challenge myself. I want to get the best out of me. I don't just want to hide my creativity in something that is obscure. I write poetry that is quite clear. It might be loaded with a lot of quips, idioms, but it should be as clear as possible. Because there is a message that I want to communicate. I don't want someone to just assume that maybe this poet wants to talk about this subject. It should be as clear as possible. Because poetry is a way of communicating.
Absolutely.
An inner feeling.
Absolutely.
You know,
Yeah.
although you spice it up with interesting words, just to make it more beautiful. But the message should be as clear as possible. I mastered this from epic poets. You can quickly follow the story they are writing about, because it's quite clear. Like you are reading Homer's Odyssey, the story about Troy and stuff, the Trojan horse and stuff.
Yeah.
You know, that book was properly written. I read all that, the Greek classics or the Roman classics. I admire those writers. They are meticulous. So my readership must expect something that is well written, with clarity, meaning, very good sounding. Something that even our musicians can quote when singing.
Yes.
Because I write music.
No, I completely understand what you're saying there, because obviously
I actually have one manuscript entitled Quips.
Right.
It's just a book with short expressions which rhyme.
Right.
Just 2 sentences, 2 lines. 2 lines, which can be quoted quite a lot. It's like proverbs.
Right. Oh, that's so
Like
interesting.
Solomon's proverbs.
That is so interesting. Yeah. Oh,
So it's entitled Quips.
right. Ah, fantastic. Absolutely. Well, Joseph, it's been really, really wonderful spending time with you, getting to know you better, talking about your writing journey. And it's exciting to know that there's a lot more where Grave Park Poesy came from. And I look forward to seeing it and getting it out into the world. So thank you so much for all you do. Thank you for coming. Thank you for speaking with me. And thank you for providing all this knowledge, information to everyone who's watching.
Thank you, Samantha. I appreciate quite a lot. You did a good job bringing me out here. This is not the first time to do me a good job. You published my book. I think I owe you more. I appreciate. It's good having me here, Samantha. I thank you quite a lot. I will never stop thanking you.
Oh,
And may God bless you, Samantha.
you're most welcome.
Thank
And
you.
thank you.
Thanks.